It's a very good question and short and sweet, and that's what I love. Okay, so he has accommodations for shorter assignments. He's in general education with resource help. So an example is that he may complete first 20 problems of math worksheet versus completing 50 problems. Should these modifications um, be announced to the class? No, absolutely not. It's nobody else's business except for the general education teacher and any kind of resource help that's in there. I mean, that would be attached to his IEP. His IEP is attached to FERPA, and those are his education records. Okay, and it's nobody else's business in the class with regards to any kind of accommodations he's receiving, um, and or modifications, um, supplemental aids and services, things of that nature. In fact, there's many cases that I've had over the years to where we have crafted them in such a way that even the child was unaware that he had an IEP and that he was receiving accommodations and services, because we found ways to embed them to where he was receiving those services without knowing he was receiving those services. Now, why would a parent do that? Well, because the parents did not want him to be labeled, and they didn't want him to misinterpret what he needed. Okay, and so let's say he has in these prior cases he had high functioning autism, and the parents just did not want him to be labeled. He didn't know that he had a diagnosis, and quite frankly, he didn't need to know. If the parents didn't feel like that was pertinent or relevant. Um, and I understand that logic in these situations. So, to each his own. All right. So please do me a favor. Any parent out there that doesn't agree, that was that family's decision. Okay. So that was that family's decision. And there's no judgment on my side, just like I wouldn't judge another parent's decisions on how they want to approach their child's disability or needs. Okay? All right. So it worked for him because the parent was saying, well, he needs these services. We acknowledge that, but can they be done in such a way to where we leave the least amount of footprint on the normalcy that they wanted him to experience? And yes, absolutely. It just takes effort. It just takes a team to sit there and make that determination. Um, but I can tell you that no other classmate should know. These are specialized services. And so special education has a stigma and a negative stigma that doesn't need to be there. It shouldn't be there. This is now called specialized instruction. And specialized instruction is just a change or an individualized way of approaching a child's specific learning needs and style. Okay? And quite frankly, if we really wanted to apply it, all students should be receiving an individualized type of education program. This fact that we still work off of this one size fits all factory model of cranking out children is absolutely wrong. I think that every child needs an individualized education program. And obviously for those who have a diagnosis, those plans are far more encompassing. But I don't separate these groups, quite frankly, to where, wow, these special needs kids. We shouldn't be viewing it like that. It should be viewed as specialized instruction because that's this child's learning style. This is this child's need for accommodations. To try to have some kind of equity and opportunity, not equity and outcome, equity and opportunity. So at that point, you see how that goes. But they should be given individually. And so you're absolutely in a very good position to approach your team, approach the teacher, and be careful with the word modification as opposed to accommodation or there's a big difference in special education world between the word accommodation and modification. So make sure that you're using the right word. And if your child is on the regular general education standards, then we're not modifying, we're accommodating. And it is okay to accommodate with work reduction, because what we're doing is we're just probing for mastery of concept, where we don't need 50 problems completed in order for us to understand whether the child is understanding that concept using 20 problems. And if there's a mastery of concept, then it's not a modification, it's an accommodation. Okay, so please understand the difference. Don't use modification unless your child is not on the general education standard coursework, because you don't want to confuse that with your team. But it should be private, and it should be the other students shouldn't know about it at all. Okay.